So look, while we're talking about hated athletes in Boston,
Yep.
I mean, Kyrie's got to be, top of the list. If we were to do a top 3, top 5, top 10, he's got to be in all of it. So, let's throw out a couple more who come to mind. Obviously, Kyrie will start there. First one top of mind for me, Colin's Derek Jeter. I mean, I feel like every opposing team's ballpark and fan base hated Derek Jeter when the Yankees came to town. I cannot imagine, even though I was not here during that time, I can't imagine any city, any place, any fan base hates Derek Jeter more than this one here in Boston.
Absolutely not, and they shouldn't. I mean, Jeter and one of my picks, who I'll just mention now, A-Rod, they were the faces of the evil empire for however many years, and that evil empire, clowned on Boston a few times. And just talking about A-Rod for just a second, the Jason Varitek infamous picture of them grappling after A-Rod did whatever he did in that game. I think that was back in either 2006 or something like that. And that's an infamous moment in Boston sports history when Varitek comes out there and just shoves him and grapples him and does all of this stuff. So yeah, I think though that evil empire, we can expand that to the entire team back in the early 2000s, in the mid to late 2000s, basically that entire decade, honestly, when the Yankees were winning championship upon championship and really taking it to the Boston Red Sox. So yeah, I mean, all of these Yankees guys, when you talk to an old school Red Sox fan, you mentioned Jeter, you mentioned A-Rod, they're ready to start going and start talking about him. For one of my next guys, this isn't necessarily an athlete, because obviously he isn't an athlete, but Roger Goodell is who I put at the top of my list.
Yeah.
And look, for reasons we've gotten to before, we've talked about before, Goodell is the guy that tried his hardest to sabotage Tom Brady, to sabotage the New England Patriots. Remember Deflategate, even, Spygate was a little bit of a different story. Deflategate's really the big one here. When it was the suspension, it was seen that, he was really trying to get his licks at the New England Patriots. And he's a representative of the owners. The owners didn't like what the Patriots were doing. All of these things, we've talked about Deflategate on numerous occasions. Yeah. But I think that the most interesting part of this is that the legacy of the two people and that were involved in Deflategate, Brady and Goodell, Brady's legacy remained completely intact among New Englanders, and Goodell's legacy was completely trashed. So in the grand scheme of things, Tom Brady and the Patriots won their fight with Goodell. But I mean, you mentioned Goodell to any Patriots fan, and the first thing they're going to do is spit on the ground when they hear that name.
I never understood why Roger Goodell hated the Patriots so much. When you look at like the facts and just even up until present day, outside of the obvious Aaron Hernandez, right? We understand that, but outside of that, I feel like the Patriots, compared to some of these other teams and some of these other athletes and what they've done in terms of their bad deeds on and off the field, I mean, the Patriots look like choir boys. So I never really got why Roger Goodell hated these guys so much, especially Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback of all time. All right, I'm going Eli Manning here. I mean, listen, his whole legacy, his whole career is based off of beating Brady when it mattered most, not once but twice. The helmet catch is ridiculous. I was talking about this with some of my boys out in the content center earlier today, where I was like, I even think that sideline throw to Mario Manningham doesn't get talked about enough. That was ridiculous. I mean, this dude just kept pulling a rabbit out of a hat again and again against the Patriots. And how Eli of him. I mean, Peyton had all the stats, only beat the Patriots once or twice when it counted. But Eli didn't have the stats. Really, if you look at it, kind of had a mediocre-ish career, but twice he got it done when it counted, and that's his entire career. He's a Hall of Famer because of that, and you know it.
Absolutely, and that's the one thing, that Tyree helmet catch, the call by Joe Buck, and then the reaction on the sideline, the reaction when the Giants ended up winning that Super Bowl. That whole fiasco in New England was a sight to see. And Eli, I think the kind of the cherry on top of this pain Sunday for the Patriots is that, like you said, Eli wasn't necessarily a world-beating quarterback in his NFL career, but he did turn it on, and the team turned it on when they played New England in the biggest moment. So I think that's a good pick. I actually went a different direction with this one, and this is a guy that I had thought of when I saw this prompt, Bernard Pollard. And I did some more research on this. I remember I was just getting kind of into the NFL. The 2012 hit on Gronkowski. Yeah. I was just kind of getting into the NFL. I saw this hit and I was like, oh my goodness, like he was severely limited. Gronkowski was, and that, we didn't talk about the Giants. That had a ripple effect there. But then I did some more research on this. Pollard was the guy that tore Brady's ACL. Remember back in 2008. So that's where, like, he has a laundry list of moments throughout Patriots history where he injures the biggest stars.
Yeah, I covered him when I was in Baltimore, and he was on the Ravens, and he was an absolute menace, and he knew it. I mean, he knew every second of it. All right, so we brought this up at the top of the show. Kennedy Carter taking out Caitlin Clark. It has been reassessed now retroactively, and it's a flagrant one for that hip check. But then she goes on social media and says this, quote, Cullen, beside three-point shooting, what does she bring to the table, man? And I'm like, I don't know, ratings, interest. Yeah. Like, what are you doing? And by the way, let's put some respect on Caitlin Clark's name. She brings more than three-point shooting. She's a tremendous passer.
Yes.
She can shoot the lights out. She's a tenacious, I think, just competitor, period. And evident by how she's getting thrown around in this league, and she keeps getting back up and coming at you. I've seen her hit a game winner. I mean, she's going to be a great WNBA player. It's clearly going to take some time to get all these other players off of her back, because that's what's going on here. I mean, what's going on? Is this jealousy, you think?
I don't know if it's necessarily jealousy. I think this is just Kennedy Carter being the type of player that she has been for a pretty long time. And that's not necessarily a knock on her. That's just the game that she plays. I think the knock on her comes when in this situation, right? You watch the clip from all of the angles. There was absolutely no reason for this hit, and that's why it was adjusted to be a flagrant. But also you consider the quotes afterward. One, a reporter tried to ask her. She said, I'm not answering any Caitlin Clark questions. Like, it's insane to her that any reporter would love to get to the bottom of what just happened here. And then she says, what does she bring to the game other than 3-point shooting? I don't know. Like I said before, notoriety, like you said ratings, you said attention, you said tweets, you said this. So yeah, like Kennedy Carter's obviously in some kind of delusional dreamland in which Caitlin Clark is, one, not a good basketball player, and two, not important to the success in the future of the league that Kennedy Carter plays in. So yeah, I think maybe there's a little bit of jealousy here. I think a lot of it is just competitiveness, and I think a lot of it is, and I think this is really important too, is that beefs are fun in sports, right?
Yes.
Like we've seen this in the NBA. We mentioned rivalries, Red Sox, Yankees. You see it in hockey too, with Brad Marchand and every single other player on the other team. Like that's what makes sports fun. And I think the WNBA getting to that point is a good thing, but I don't think Clark getting pushed around because of it is something that's necessarily helpful for the game as a whole. There's a way to do this without, potentially injuring the greatest star, one of the best stars that this league has seen in a long time. So is it jealousy? Maybe. Is it Kennedy Clark just kind of taking out something or Kennedy Carter, I should say, taking something out on Caitlin Clark? That's probably what it is. I think she's a little bit misguided here.
Well, Kennedy's messing up the money, because I'm telling you right now, if Caitlin Clark gets hurt, this whole thing goes to hell in a handbasket. So I actually would like to see some more teammates come to Caitlin Clark's aid a little bit more than I have. It doesn't really seem like that's happening much. And listen, if I'm a bench player on the Fever, let me be clear. That is my job. As soon as I see someone messing with Caitlin Clark, which is a nightly occurrence, I am going out there. I don't care if I get fined, suspended, whatevs. I'm going out there strictly for beef to make sure I send a message, because some of this is this, where no one's coming to her aid. And there are no repercussions from a player standpoint. So I would go out and make an example of somebody to send a message to the rest of the league. You got to leave my star player alone.